Greetings, Guardians, this is Olympus Alliance, and today we're not just talking about builds or teams or even heroes in the usual way. Today we're talking about something much more subtle, but at the same time much more powerful, because one small decision, one single change before the fight even begins can completely transform how your hero performs, and that decision is your talisman choice, because talismans are not just stats, they are identity, they define how your hero behaves, how they survive, how they deal damage, and more importantly how they win or lose fights depending on the opponent in front of them. And today we're focusing on a hero where that decision matters more than most, a hero that many players think they understand but actually don't fully optimize, a hero that doesn't play by normal tank rules, because Aurora is not a tank that absorbs damage, Aurora is a tank that avoids it, and that single difference already changes everything about how you should build her, how you should think about her, and especially how you should choose between her talismans. Now as part of this series we are going faction by faction, breaking heroes down one by one, not just telling you what is better, but making you understand why it is better and when it becomes better, because the biggest mistake players make is thinking there is always one correct answer, when in reality the strongest players are the ones who adapt before the fight even starts, and talismans are the only system in the game that actually allows you to do that. Everything else is locked once you invest into it, but talismans give you flexibility, they give you control, and they give you the ability to change the outcome before the first skill is even used. So let's talk about Aurora, one of the oldest tanks in the game, one of the most iconic, one of those heroes that many of us used early on and saw dominate in different stages of the game, but also one that in today's meta has fallen out of favor, not because she lost her identity, but because the environment around her became more punishing, more explosive, more aggressive, and that makes every decision you take with her even more important, especially when it comes to her talismans. Aurora currently has 2 talismans, and unlike many heroes where the choice is obvious, here we are looking at 2 completely different directions, 2 completely different ways of playing her, and if you don't understand that difference, you will never get the best out of her. The first one is the Talisman of Research, which gives strength and dodge, and immediately this feels natural, because dodge is not just a stat for Aurora, it is her entire defensive system. She doesn't rely on armor like other tanks, she doesn't reduce damage in the traditional way, she simply avoids it, and every time she dodges an attack, that damage never happened, that pressure disappears, that momentum from the enemy is broken, and that is why stacking dodge on Aurora is not optional, it is essential. It is what keeps her alive long enough to do her job. Now the second talisman, the Talisman of Paladin, takes a completely different approach, giving her magic penetration and magic attack, and this is where things start to get interesting, because Aurora is one of the few tanks in the game whose skills actually scale with magic attack, which means she has the potential to deal real damage, not just survive, not just hold the line, but actually contribute offensively in a meaningful way, and this talisman unlocks that side of her. It turns her from a pure survival tank into something more aggressive, something that can pressure the enemy in unexpected ways. So now we have the real question, not which talisman is better in isolation, but what role do you want Aurora to play in your team, because this is where most players make the mistake, they see magic attack and penetration and assume it must be stronger, they think more damage always means better performance, but they forget one very important thing, Aurora is still a tank, and if your tank dies, everything collapses, you lose control of the fight, you lose protection for your team. And it doesn't matter how much damage she could have done, because she never gets the chance to do it. And this is why context matters so much, because yes, if we look purely at her skills, magic attack is the only scaling factor, and that gives the Talisman of Paladin a clear advantage in terms of damage output, but that is only one side of the equation, because damage without survival is meaningless, and in the current meta where burst damage is high, where control is constant, where fights can turn in seconds, survivability is everything. And this is where the Talisman of Research shows its true value, because more dodge means more consistency, it means Aurora stays alive longer, it means she continues to function as a tank, it means she keeps protecting your team, and that reliability is something you cannot ignore, especially when you are building for real fights, not just theoretical maximum damage. But at the same time, we are not saying Paladin is wrong, far from it, because in the right scenario, in the right matchup, in the right team composition, that extra magic attack and penetration can turn Aurora into a surprise threat, a tank that doesn't just survive but also punishes, and that kind of unexpected damage can catch opponents off guard and win fights you wouldn't expect to win. So once again, we come back to the real answer, this is not about which talisman is better, this is about understanding when each one becomes better. Research gives you stability, reliability, survivability, the safe option, the consistent option, the one that fits most situations, while Paladin gives you aggression, potential, unpredictability, the option you use when you want to push beyond the standard role and create something different. But if we are forced to make a decision, if we are building Aurora for general use, for consistency, for the current meta where survival is the foundation of everything, then the answer is clear, the Talisman of Research is the one we recommend, because Aurora's strength has never been her damage, it has always been her ability to stay alive when others would fall, and reinforcing that identity will always give you more value over time. So Guardians, now we turn to you, how are you using Aurora? Are you playing her safe and consistent, or are you experimenting with a more aggressive approach? Have you tested both talismans? Have you seen how much the choice actually changes her performance? Because this is where the real improvement happens, not just copying builds, but understanding why they work. Stay tuned, stay sharp, and as always, salute and friendship.